Just gonna reset again for make sure it's not lagging. Alright, ready to go. 3, 2, 1, go. Alright, so this is Kirby and the Amazing Mirror. It's a like Metroidvania Kirby game kind of thing. This first area is just like a little bit of a tutorial, teaches you some mechanics. This is some multiplayer puzzle, but we're going to skip over it just with a precisely timed jump. What's coming up is a mix. Alright. So, if I inhale 2 enemies with abilities, it'll start this mix wheel. There's no randomness to it, so with precise timing I can just select whatever ability I want. And the ability I want is wheel because of its great horizontal mobility. Okay, I just need to remind myself to pick up the ocean spray paint color. So this first part is pretty much just linear. There are some paths, but basically if you want to get anywhere in the game, you'll have to go through the end of this. Wheel is an incredibly powerful ability in this game. As you can see, I'm already invulnerable while running through enemies. But an important difference between this game's wheel and for example, Nightmare in Dreamland, the game that this took all its sprites from, is the fact that it does not decelerate in air. Like if you use wheel in Nightmare in Dreamland, it will like pretty much come to a halt if you're in the air. And another thing is that you can jump while you're in wheel form. That's something like Wheelie Rider from Superstar. Alright. This mini boss, Mr. Flosty as he's misspelled. You use the 2 Waldies and you finish them off with wheel. Pretty simple. And what you're going to see is that for some of these switch rooms, I'm going to skip over them just by, like for example, a well-timed wheel jump. And some of them I will hit. So that one will unlock some specific shortcut. And according to the route, I unlock some of the shortcuts. Ah yes, I'll fix the double audio in a little bit. I'm going to switch to stone here for this upcoming boss. And I'm going to hit this switch. This switch is like basically mandatory. Should be fixed now. It will unlock essentially the rest of the game. So I'm coming up is the mandatory Wispy Woods fight. A very quick fight with stone. The whole goal of 80% is to get these 8 mirror shards. And once the game is saved, I can just immediately reset. And I'll save the progress, and I'll skip the customary Kirby dance that comes after you beat these. If you're a big fan of Kirby dances, there will be one later on. I'll get to that when it comes up. Yeah, conveniently they place a wheel enemy right at the beginning. So we're gonna come back to that wheel enemy a couple times throughout this run. And normally you're not actually like fully invulnerable, that would be silly. So when you're turning around is when the wheel ability is vulnerable. And that's especially important on stuff like mini bosses, where you're gonna take like many hits to try to kill them. And also, of course, if you like bonk into a wall, that'll force you to come out of your wheel. Yeah, sorry, I have this game on desktop audio, which I normally don't have for when I stream. So right now we're on our way to Radish Ruins. Has some of the cooler wheel movement in the game. But basically the layout of this is that there are 9 different worlds. So the main one's called Rainbow Route, but for the other 8, there's one boss lying at the end of each area. So that's where we're going to be going to get to unlock the final boss sequence. So now we're on to Radish Ruins proper. Some people find are put off by the amount of wheel in this run, and even in something like the 100% run where there's a bigger variety. But for me, it's just like, I don't know, just a smooth experience by using wheel. You might have noticed that in these like long sections, I'm jumping over enemies. Each time you hear like a little bit of a sound of Kirby running into an enemy with wheel form, we call that hit lag, and it wastes about 3 frames each time that happens. It doesn't really sound like a lot, but it really does add up over the course of the run. And there are some rooms where, like, in that room alone, it saves a significant, or I guess surprising amount of time to optimize for hit lag. What the heck is this? I've never seen that happen in this part of the run. Oh yeah, I should mention that the whole story about this game is that, like, some evil Meta Knight has split Kirby into 4, so that explains the 3 Kirby icons at the top left. And so they're just like roaming around like idiots the entire time. And as a result, Kirby also has like a weaker inhale than he does in other games. But what just happened there is that one of these CPU Kirbys got the magic ability and then summoned Meta Knight. I guess that was good for killing some of the enemies on the screen, but I stopped in place and it was just annoying. Ah yes, Master Hand. Well, we'll get to that, but this is a game that came out not too long after Melee, so there's a bunch of like Melee-related stuff. I think this is like the first title developed after Sakurai left HAL. Alright, so this is a classic duel. Yeah. People always like come into my stream and they're like, oh, I'm happy that like the canonical weapon choice is actually the best option here. Alright, so that's Meta Knight. The way that the order has been made for this route is that we want to do some of the more random bosses earlier. So that was Meta Knight, or question mark, question mark, question mark.
My favorite Final Fantasy character.
Yeah. And the next one coming up is Molly. So those two are like notoriously random bosses, so it's fortunate that we're able to put them early on in the run. I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter for Marathon, but there are many, many orders that you could have chosen for this game. Oops. And the one that we have chosen is to put the more random bosses towards the beginning of the run for grinding purposes. Oops. Yeah, a common theme. Yeah, a common theme in this run is using stone. You're essentially like, even though it doesn't look like it, you're doing like multiple hits per attack. Alright, so the idea behind using the throw ability is to not actually throw what Molly gives you, but to hold it behind you and get multiple hits that way. So that actually went okay. You might see like the potential for like huge trolls for that boss right there. Like decides not to throw anything, like immediately ducks in his hole after throwing, so on and so forth. So we're coming back here to get this wheel enemy, and then leaving to go to a different area. So now we're on to Carrot Castle, which is another place with a lot of cool wheel movement, in my opinion. These 3 enemies in a row can be quite random and be in inconvenient locations. Luckily, they were in very favorable positions. So also here, if I just wait on floating up, I can just sneak past that enemy. Yeah, in this game, it's kind of important that, like, in terms of setting up mixes, so on and so forth, that enemies actually take multiple hits to kill. So Nightmare and Dreamland, everything dies in 1 hit, but some of these take quite a few hits. Oh, okay, whatever. I'll just go up. Yeah, I'll just take this guy here. little bit of a neat strat here to get back up to the door. It's kind of tricky to exit wheel form and jump up without face planting, but that little bonk there off the wall really helps. So I'm gonna remember not to do something really stupid here. So first off, mirror enemies. But second of all, this is called Fat Kirby. If you touch these spikes, you're pretty much not going to get your ability back, with some rare exceptions. So this is just a little bit of a safety net. Keep the power tucked away safely in Kirby's mouth. It only like wastes like 2 seconds, but like high level runs, people would just risk it. What was that?
Man, this DKC section.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for all those, you have no control in that room. But in the room with the spikes, you do have control. It's actually fairly generous. It's like 6 frames, like a tenth of a second. Yeah, so Mega Titan, it's really crucial to have wheel here. For the first phase, the only way to damage it is to bump it into the electric wall, and wheel has really great knockback for that. Alright, so like I said, if you're a fan of Kirby dances, this is the only one in the entire game. And the reason for it is because I already have, like, this is the only boss I finished with wheel, so I might as well just, like, keep it instead of going back to that other room to get it. And just by how we routed it, we're in front of the right door that we need to go to. Alright, so let me not forget to pick up the ocean spray paint that people have generously donated for. In this game, like most Kirby games, you cannot inhale stuff underwater, so it's very crucial you don't take damage. Oh, okay. Fine, I'll be, I guess I'll have to hit the switch in order to get the ocean spray paint efficiently. That switch is optional, but we'll get to that later. Alright, so I'm gonna... Whoops. Remember to go through here first. This is just a little sample of what 100% looks like. This doesn't actually lead to a boss. It leads to this little ability called Mini. It's pretty obvious what it does. And there's like a little bit of a cool puzzle here, but we're just going to skip it by making sure we don't lose our star by the time we inhale that. So that's the ocean spray paint. This is just part of the 100% route. I'm not actually sure if this is any faster. But there's conveniently a wheel enemy in the next room. So by the time I phone home to go back, I'll have wheel with me. Alright, so going through that same area again. This time we're going to take a different exit. Now we're coming up to one of the more grueling sections of the run, in my opinion. This is all of ocean. It's pretty much all water. I really want to keep my abilities as long as possible, so I'm going to be somewhat careful here. I guess keeping this wheel ability is not, like, losing it is not the end of the world, but there'll be something later on that really matters. This is Boxy. Like I said, if you turn around, you're vulnerable. So what you don't want is, you don't want Boxy to dance itself into a corner like that. But luckily I killed it before that happened. I would say probably the most annoying mini-boss in 8%. Oh, yeah. Full mix setup here. Fine, I'll take fire. Yeah, it's really crucial that you can, that enemies have health, so even after they're dead, their bodies stay on screen for a little bit, so you can juggle it a little bit to combine for mixes. Hopefully I can hit this pretty quickly. I'm not. Okay. Alright, good. That just skips going around the entire room, which is really slow and like all water, so on and so forth. Don't need to hit that switch.
No one likes stages.
Yeah, so usually, you know, water stages, you think of like boring, but I would say that Olive Ocean is pretty intense, especially in 100%. But even here, it's quite intense in my opinion. Oops. Yeah, Kirby's swim mask is pretty good. What I'm more confused by is why these flippers, I think that's what they're called, have swim masks themselves, if they're already fish. But anyways, I have the stone ability. I need to not take any damage, but I do want to keep it for the boss. This part can look a little bit scary, but it's not really that bad. Just a little bit of optimization with wheel movement. Alright, that was a pretty quick fight. Alright, so that's 5 bosses. Now we have 3 left. Yeah, there actually is a little bit of an animation for Kirby breathing with a snorkel. So yeah, so with that optional switch, I'm able to get Missile. It does take time, there's like that cutscene that plays to get that switch, but Missile is significantly faster for this part here. It looks kind of like just like a very simple 8-directional thing, but I assure you that it's way more complicated control than just that. Because the Missile has a tendency of drifting sideways, so you have to do some unintuitive stuff to control it, in my opinion. Plus, it's kind of precise. Each time you mess it up, you exit Missile, you have to re-enter it. It can be quite time-consuming if you screw it up. Okay. I'll stall a little bit, just so that bomb block finishes exploding. Yeah, one key thing about Missile is that when you exit it, you bounce in the opposite direction that you're moving. So, in some rooms, like there'll be one later on, you'll see where it's faster to turn around completely in Missile before exploding and exiting. Alright, so this is a little bit of a Shadow Kirby fight. I didn't get the item that I wanted, which was Invincibility Candy. That's okay, I'll just get Stone in this way. Alright, he didn't move, so that's good.
I'm half asleep. I heard get stoned.
Yeah, you get stoned a lot in this run. Yeah, quick Krako fight. Just, 3 quick stone abilities. Not really too much to say about that fight. Alright. So now we're going up to Candy Constellation. It's one of the longer and, I guess, trickier sections of the run. I would say for new runners, it's probably the most difficult part. Where I'm going is that I'm going to Peppermint Palace first. We're gonna hit these switches to take a back entrance into Peppermint Palace. So now we're in the back entrance of Peppermint Palace, and then we're gonna go up to Candy Constellation through Peppermint Palace. So in terms of like major route changes, like where exactly you go in the map, There's only essentially been one change to the route, and that was done by a runner named Jet Toast. This was in 2010. So first off, there was an 80% task by a run by Mug that went a certain way. It wasn't the most optimal for reaching King Constellation in particular, but Jet Toast discovered this route right here, which is to fight this guy. And Jet Toast set an incredibly strong run, which is 28:43. This is back in 2010, and it wasn't beaten until 2016, so it held up for nearly 6 years. Anyways, now we're on to King Constellation. There are a lot of places where you can lose your wheel ability, so hopefully I don't do that. Yeah, you just need to re-enter that room because the bomb block actually covers up your exit. This is like one of the little puzzles that occupies the bottom half of King Constellation. It's kind of shaped like the Little Dipper, like the constellation. So now we're in the handle part of the ladle. Yeah, all these one-way platforms, so if you lose your wheel that way, that's quite unfortunate. Alright, this is something that's called lag room because of how many blocks and waddle doos there are, but hopefully I should get through it pretty smoothly. Yep. Yeah, if multiple waddle doos are attacking, it can get pretty laggy and just hard to control, but luckily that was okay. Alright, so Master Hand. Unlike the first one that we fought, this one's in the air, so that just creates a little bit of complication. Makes you a little bit more vulnerable because you need to be constantly entering and exiting, but luckily I got a good pattern there. So the difference between Master Hand and like every other mini boss slash boss is that it doesn't have it doesn't have a hurt box at all times. Sort of like how it plays out in like regular Smash games. You can stand inside of Master Hand if he's not attacking. Alright, one last use of missile here. Same hit lag rules. You'll see me turn around, and then that caused me to bounce to the right. That is faster than just not turning around and trying to enter the door with missile that way. Another Shadow Kirby fight. And so here at this point, for this upcoming boss, you could call the other Kirbys, but I think I'm just going to do this solo. So this is the Master Hand and Crazy Hand fight. Alright, this is a good pattern. I like this. Get more stone. It has to be that specific pattern. Nice, that's pretty good. Got the simultaneous kill. Yeah, I've been really careful about resetting. I'm resetting much later than you actually can, just to make sure that the game does in fact save progress. So what these set of switches did was allow us to get like those switches essentially unlock two bosses. The other one is Wiz. And that's what we're getting up to now. So after we defeat Wiz, that would be the 8th mirror shard, and we can enter the mirror. Some neat wheel jumps here. You could try to mix for something here, like hammer, but I never go for that. Instead, I'm just going to pick up Parasol here. Wiz is your typical 2-layer or multi-layer boss fight. I didn't get good luck there. Just ran straight into me. The Parasol just, I don't know, it's good for doing, especially attacks in the air like this. I can just float up here with the Parasol. And Wiz dies like that. Alright, so once this mirror is completed, I'll do one more reset here. And now I'm going to enter it and then immediately reset. So that cutscene played a little bit, and so the next time I go in, I can actually... Alright, I'm going to change. I don't know how to do this. Okay, I think that's how it is. Okay. Now the second time I enter that mirror, I'll be able to skip that cutscene. And that's like a 20-second cutscene or something like that. Alright, so now I'm using the olive spray. Or ocean spray, sorry, I should say. Isn't that like a brand of like cranberry juice or something? Alright, so that's kind of the same fight, except Dark Meta Knight has more attacks. But you didn't really see any of them. And this is just a little bit of a glitch that causes me to hover a little bit. I guess that saves like a few frames for me entering this this portal here. And now we fight Darkmind, the final boss of the game. And there are multiple phases. The first couple of them are kind of the same. So it's going to be something like this where... sorry. Where I get an ability, and then throw it away, and then combine for a double star using the Master Sword that drops out of the sky. This iteration has this nice little platform in case Darkmind spawns on the screen. Darkmind is only vulnerable when he shows his like eye chest thing. So sometimes that only happens when he's like doing an attack from the ceiling, so that would be an instance of bad luck. Alright, same thing once again, except this time I'm looking for a specific, like, inhaling one of his attacks at the same time. Unfortunately, I didn't get good luck there. If I got a fire or ice star from Darkmind, I could skip this entire room, essentially. But since I didn't get good luck, I have to walk around the whole thing. Oops, almost died there. And get the sword this way instead. Yeah, so far, Darkmind's been just dying to like a double star attack. You know, what's actually happening is that he flinches once he gets hit, and actually gets hit a second time by the same double star attack. This fight's a little bit different because Darkmind has slightly more health that I can't kill him with the double star. But luckily for us, that allows me to try to get a mix, and I get UFO from doing that. So pretty quick. Darkmind 4 is known to kill many runs, but that was already pretty good luck. The reason why I want this is for Darkmind 5. This one is actually quite an annoying fight. You hit it once and he closes his eyes for like a second. So you want something that does like a one strong hit. So it's not just about DPS, I guess. And you can also hit the mirrors, which actually does more damage. And so the charge UFO is probably the best thing for RTA that you can use for this boss. That fight went quite well. And now we're coming up to the last phase of Darkmind. And it's basically this like super random space shooter. Kirby games gotta end with some kind of space shooter. He can dance around however he feels like. So hopefully I kill him before I die. Alright, time should be coming up soon. I'm not liking this. And time. there's like one final thing you can do is that you can play this. It's kind of like in Smash games where you can hit stuff during the credits and get a score at the end. You can continue shooting Dark Might even though the game's already done. Alright, I just want to do one last thing here. Yeah, thanks for the GGs, everyone.
Congrats, Kirby.
Okay, I got the score I wanted. Yeah.
See, that's all that mattered, right?
Yep. This run is now valid.